This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Today we have a gas dryer that has a whistling sound anytime that the flame is activated or the heating system is activated. And this is usually due to a faulty gas valve assembly. So we're going to be changing the gas valve assembly. So I'm taking out these two Phillips head screws underneath the filter. I'll just give you an idea what this sounds like. So I'll go ahead and set the timer, turn it on, and here's the whistling sound. So it's pretty unusual, but every now and then you run into this. So to get this gas valve changed, we're going to be removing the top panel by pushing in on two clips that are on the right and left side, about 2 inches in. Push in with a paint scraper. And then I'm going to remove the modular connector for the door switch. So I pry that apart, and I'll remove two little screws that are holding in the top of the front panel in the upper right, upper left-hand corner. Once I get those out, I'm going to grab the front panel and lift it up toward me by about 2 inches. That'll release two clips at the bottom, and then I can just take the whole thing and swing it out to the side. So now I'm going to release the belt from underneath. I'm going to push in on the idler wheel toward the right to take the tension off the motor pulley. Get that off the motor pulley. And now I'm going to lift up on the belt to get the whole tumbler out of there. And that's going to give me room to work on the gas valve assembly. So I've got it unplugged. Got the gas off, and now I'm going to remove these bolts that are holding the gas valve assembly in position. There's two in the front, and then there's one located back a few inches. Here we'll see on the video. Here's the new gas valve assembly. It comes with a new igniter, so I'm going to go ahead and install the new igniter. Put this little screw in to hold it in position. And now we have the new igniter on the new gas valve assembly. Take out another bolt here that holds it in. There's one here holding down the gas tube. I'm going to take the modular connector off of the primary and secondary gas valves. It just pulls right off. And I'm going to pry apart this modular connector that brings power to the igniter. And then I've got all the wiring connections disconnected. And I've got most of the mechanical connections holding the gas valve in position off. There is another one, though, in the back that I need to remove. And then I can just pull the whole thing out. So I'm getting the wire harness out of the way. And I get this one little bolt right here. So there were three holding it on, one holding on to the gas pipe. I got that out of the way. Now I'm in the back, making sure the gas valve is off. I'll be removing the compression fitting from the back here that holds on the gas supply tube. I'll spin that off. And I'm going to get this adapter off too, so I'm going to grab it with this crescent wrench and remove it. I'm going to lift it up a little bit so I have better access. Dryers are pretty light, so it's pretty easy to do that. And I'm just going to use my crescent wrench to get it loose. So I'm loosening that until I can turn it by hand. This whistling gas valve, by the way, is pretty unusual. I've done a lot of dryer repairs, and I can only think of 2 times I've done it. This is the second time, so not super likely you'll run into this. So I've sped up the camera a little bit. I'm now removing the back panel. It's got a bunch of screws. I think there's 8 to 10 of them that we have to zip off on the perimeter. And then that back panel can come off. And that's just so we can get off 2 more screws that are holding the gas pipe down. So this seems like kind of an involved procedure, but it's really pretty easy. Just a lot of little screws you got to take out. So you got the back panel off, and here are those 2 screws that are holding on the gas pipe. So I got that off. Now I can lift up and pull the old gas valve assembly out. I noticed there was a little bit of pipe dope or pipe sealant that may have gotten pushed downstream that's causing the whistling. So I'm putting in the new valve assembly. Push the pipe all the way through, and I'm adding this bracket that holds down the gas pipe. Going to line up the holes and then put in these 2 screws in the front that are holding down the gas valve assembly. There's one that goes straight down here, right there. We have all the mechanical connections done. We'll do the wire connections, a modular, hook up the primary and secondary gas valves. Really easy to do. Just line them up. Wiggle them in. Then there's a modular connector for the igniter. I'm going to pull this whole thing out of the way so that it's not near any of the heat. And that's pretty much done in the front. So on the back, we're just going to put that bracket down on the gas valve. There's 2 screws holding it in. We're going to put on some of this Teflon tape on the threads of the new gas pipe. And this is the yellow type of Teflon tape. The white stuff's for water, the yellow stuff's for gas, so it's a little bit thicker. So I'm putting it on the threads, and then I'm going to kind of squish it on, and then I'll take the adapter and I'm going to feed that back on. First I'll put on that little bracket that holds the gas pipe down. The bracket's interesting. It has little teeth that sink into the gas pipe to really hold it securely. Because when you turn with a wrench the adapter, you don't want the gas pipe to turn. So that bracket really helps to isolate that. There we go. And we'll go ahead and sped up the camera a little bit, but we're going to tighten up that adapter. And that Teflon tape just makes a really good, super airtight connection. This one, though, the compression fitting that goes on the adapter, you do not need tape because it has designed that as you tighten it, it seals itself. Those are called compression fittings. And then after you do this, you can turn on the gas and just make sure there's no leak. One way you can test for a leak is to spray something like Windex right where you did the addition of the adapter. And if you see little bubbles coming up, then you know that there's a leak. So you got the gas valve back. So it looks good, no leaks. And just gotta put the back panel back on. So that's just adding all those screws in again. kind of lift the panel up into position, line up the screws, zip them in. There we go, that one lines up. There's also this little plate you want to push in the part into the slot, then bring the plate into position, and the triangular part of it should point down. Add the screws in. There we go. Just get those all zipped in all the way around. This one. And we're going to lift up the tumbler, put that back in. The felt side of it goes in toward the back of the dryer. This big black felt piece goes onto the round part there in the back, and then we're going to put the belt back on. So we're going to get down low where we can see what's going on. We're going to loop the belt through, and then we're going to push the idler wheel, take the tension off of it, lock the idler wheel into the slot there at the bottom, and then loop the belt through underneath it, pull the idler wheel to our right and loop it over the motor pulley. And now we want to just support the tumbler and gently turn it a couple of revolutions to make sure that the dryer belt won't slip off. Make sure it's all lined up. We're supporting it because otherwise there's no front bearing to hold it up, so we're lifting it up a bit as we turn it. If you don't do this and then you put it all back together and start it, it may slip off and then you have to kind of restart. So it's good to do that at this point. Clean out some of this dryer lint. We'll put the front bearing or front panel back on. It has a couple clips at the bottom, so you have to let the clip, you have to lift the panel up slightly higher than the frame by about 1.5 inches, and then let the clip lock in, and then you can add the screws back in that hold the panel on. One in the upper left and upper right hand corner. So this dryer has some new life. It has that new gas valve assembly, has a primary and secondary new gas valves. It has a new igniter. So this is great. Could give this dryer maybe another 8 years of life. This design, by the way, by Whirlpool is awesome. These dryers often will get up into the 25 and 30 year point. You have to do a bit of replacement parts like we're doing today, but they're really good dryers. And we do this modular connector for the door switch. Make sure you do that or it won't start. You're going to close the lid. The clips are going to hold it, and then we'll add 2 Phillips head screws that go underneath the filter assembly. Those also are used to help hold the front or top panel back on. Careful when you do this so you don't drop these screws into that filter assembly. Just hold on to them tight, take your time. Here goes the filter. And now when we start it up, we turn the gas back on, we got it plugged back in. We have a normal sounding dryer, no more whistle. So I hope this has been helpful to you and you get your dryer working too. Thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe when you get a chance.